I'm going to tell you something that's going to upset you or something that's going to completely transform on how you see phone call follow up. You see, there's a missing ingredient that every single injury law firm is missing, that without it, you're going to burn out your intake team. You're going to completely ruin your chances of scaling your law firm. That even if you get 200 leads or 300 more leads, that actually is going to destroy your revenue because you're missing this one ingredient. You don't have to worry, because in this video I'm going to show you this key ingredient that is going to take you from scaling A to B without getting and investing thousands of dollars into more leads. Now, everyone in the industry of law firm marketing is going to tell you that phone call follow-ups is the best way to convert your leads. And I'm here to tell you that's absolutely further from the truth. If you solely rely on phone call follow-up to convert your leads, that's going to absolutely kill your revenue. And actually, the more leads you get, the worse your situation is going to get if you solely rely on phone call follow-up. So here's the truth. If you want to scale your law firm and really get to that next level, you have to add a system with your phone call. A system that helps you scale higher without doing any more manual labor. A system that can help you reach out to your leads at the right time and immediately. Because we all know the golden rule. The faster you respond to your lead, the more higher the conversion rates are. And also, you need a system where it does not only do one touch point, but does a lot of touch points. And what I mean by touch points, if you don't understand that, is that you have to show that your credibility, you have to show your law firm's personality and who you are as a person. You also have to educate your leads on what to do next, really bring that value to your leads, because what that does builds that authority with you and your lead. So to summarize it all down, with your phone call follow-up, you need to have a system that helps you scale higher without doing more manual labor, follows up with your leads immediately and with the perfect timing, and goes through multiple touch points by showing your credibility or building that authority or that human connection or going through that objection handling. And I'm going to show you all of this in today's video. So for the first part, how to scale your law firm without adding more manual labor. To go more into detail with this, is that the more law firms scale and the more leads that actually come in, usually people will see this, oh, this is a great thing. You know, I'm really going to get to that next level. But actually, this is what's going to backfire on you and actually tank your revenue even more. Because as more leads come in and as more successful you get, the more manual labor your intake team is going to have to do. I had a business on LinkedIn, like, which I started around February, where I was doing, as you can guess, email marketing services for law firms, more specifically for injury law firms. And I talked to this law firm once, and they were telling me how they scaled their law firm. They were really getting up there. They were getting more leads than ever. But that is where the twist came in. See, the more leads they were actually getting, the more work their intake team is going to have to do. And this absolutely crushed their intake team. And the leads they were getting, they had the lowest conversion rate that month. That is so crazy to think about, because the more leads a law firm got, they actually did the opposite for that law firm. It destroyed their law firm, or not destroyed their law firm, but they were not able to take that chance, all those leads, into actually scale. You see, that is the problem. The problem is that law firms focus so much on trying to get more leads, because I see this everywhere where people are talking about SEO or billboards or they're on social media. And yes, I do look around Chicago, and everywhere around here is billboards of injury law firms. And no, I am very serious. It's all injury law firms here. All right, so now we're going to get into the details of this video, where how you can avoid this problem that this law firm experienced. And the first issue and the first chain that you're going to have to break is no scalable system. And what this means is that you do not have a system in place where you can scale to the next level. And actually, the more leads you get, the lower the conversion rates are, which we're going to explain right here. Now, why does this happen? The reason why this happens, the more leads that you get into your law firm, the more you're adding into the workload into your intake team. And as over time this starts to happen, this can start to overwhelm them, causing burnout, stress, and the pressure to perform. And how this all starts to unfold is that since you're Since your intake team is dealing with a high volume of leads, the more manual labor they're going to have to do. And since they're having so much on their plate, they're not going to be able to give them the quality follow-ups. They're not going to be able to give the perfect timing on the phone call follow-up. And just in everything in general, the quality is going to go down because the amount of leads they're getting is going to be too much for them. And how this affects your law firm is as the phone call follow-up quality goes down, the conversion rates are going to go down massively. And since you're scaling your law firm by getting more leads, you're actually damaging your own law firm by not having a scalable system because your conversion rates are going to go down because your intake team cannot handle all of these leads. All right, now to solve this problem. So first we have to consider, why does this happen? And this happened because the amount of manual labor your intake team has to do, right? So in order to solve this, we have to be able to convert these leads automatically. And the best way to do this is by setting up your email marketing system, but more specifically, setting up your ESP and your CRM. And I'm going to explain why this is important. So when you start setting these two up, you have to connect these two and integrate them. And once you do that, this allows you to accomplish two things. First, you get to send emails automatically the moment the lead comes in, which deals with the manual labor problem. And the second solution that you actually get from this is by you get to send these emails to personalized groups, like specific leads, which I'm about to get into in a second. You know, as your leads start filling in the intake team form, you get to add tags as data from what the leads put in. And then all of the things that the lead filled in, you get to group them into a specific segregated group and send specific and highly personalized emails to them. So you can give them the quality, you can call out their exact pain points they're feeling to really get those high conversion rates. And best of all, you get to do this all automated. So as you scale higher, you don't have to worry about the manual labor of 200 leads or 300 leads because you can send these emails automatically with the high quality and also get all of those touch points you need to really nurture them into converting. Now I'm about to get into the 5 to 7 touch points later down the video. But what another thing you have to understand about phone call follow-up is that it cannot get all of those touch points. Let's say for example, you're a motorcycle law firm. You handle motorcycle accidents. Here's an example. Let's say a lead comes in, right? And they fill out in the intake team form that they're a motorcycle lead that has been seriously injured and they're not going through hospital treatment. You can get all of that data and write highly personalized emails to that specific group of people because they have different problems that people that are not getting hospital treatment than the people that are getting hospital treatment. So basically, you are solving the manual labor problem by sending these emails automatically. And in the same time, you get to give that high quality and high personalized emails to your leads, really getting all of those touch points, and instead of just a couple of phone calls. All right, now for the second chain, and that is missed timing. So the thing about when you scale your law firm and you're only doing phone call follow-ups, it's going to be extremely tasking to really perfectly time your calls on every single one of those leads with your intake team. And since you cannot perfectly time these phone calls, you're going to get lower conversion rates. Now, I heard this from a very successful entrepreneur called Alex Hormozi. You probably heard of him. But he said in a video that he was talking to a company, right? Company owner, that CEO said he paid his aunt like 60K a year to do one job. And that is the moment the lead comes in, you call them immediately. And then from that, he got 55% conversion rates just from calling them like that. Now, you cannot do that because as you scale higher, you cannot handle all those leads that come in like that. So the solution to this is, like I said, email marketing. Once you set up your CRM and your ESP, you integrate them together. You get to send the quality of the emails that I just explained previously, and you can send them automatically. So once you set up the system in place, not only that you send these emails automatically, but you get to send highly personalized emails to convert them easier. And then as you're sending these emails, you can do an email campaign and really send 8 to 10 emails to them that touch all of those touch points that you need to slowly convert them. And actually using this system, this can be easier for your intake team to convert these leads because they're already on the leaning on the side of conversion because you touch these touch points through emails. And that brings us to our third chain, which is the lack of touch points from your phone calls. So what does this mean? I keep on saying touch points, but what does this mean? What touch points are is that certain points interact with the lead to build that trust and authority. So I'm a marketer, right? I've done my marketing to sell my services like on TikTok, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube right now. And I am also a certified email marketer trained by professionals. And what I've grown to learn is that the touch points are extremely important. Every single business owners understand that how important touch points are. As I was studying business around me, I've learned that there's a universal of 3 different touch points you have to get to be able to convert these leads. And that is your personal brand, the education, and the testimony, which I like to call the cultivating triangle. And with one phone call or a couple of phone calls, you cannot touch all these touch points because there's an industry understanding that you have to at least get 5 to 7 touch points. So, why is this affecting your law firm so badly? So, as you start to scale, the less of these touch points you get to get. Why? Because, like I said, your intake team cannot keep up with all of these leads that are coming in. And like I said before, the quality of the phone call starts to go down and the timing starts to go down, and you cannot get these touch points effectively. And then, since you cannot get all of these touch points effectively, the conversion rates start to go down. And then you can probably say that phone calls, or you feel like the phone calls are very personal, right? You can really build that personal understanding, that personal connection with the lead. And yes, that is true and all. But the fact that you're only hitting one touch point of the cultivating triangle, you have to get all 3 of these touch points to really effectively convert the lead. And you cannot do this on a phone call. You can educate the lead on what the next step is for you and them, but that only benefits your law firm. What it really means to educate your lead is that you have to give them value, where you give them the value and they input this into real life, and then that's how you build your authority. Real value to them. Case study is a story you give to your lead, not that you just tell them that, oh, we helped this client just like yours to help them get this and that. The best and the most effective case studies is the case study that really appeals to the emotion, really touches the heart. And that's really cheesy to say, but I've done marketing all over social media and have been trained by professionals and got my certification. And as cheesy that sounds, I, of all people, understand that case studies have to be emotionally appealing, that really touch the heart. But that is how you do all the cultivating triangle. First, the personal brand, then the education that brings them real life value, and touching the heart through case studies. You might be thinking to yourself, how can I put this into practice? Now you can do this through the email system that I've taught you. With the campaign that you can build, you can give out objection handling emails. You can give out story emails, or more of an urgency email, or a social proof email. There is a lot of emails you can give out to your lead to really convert them more easily. And you only have to write these emails one time, and you can send these emails to more and more leads. The moment the lead comes in, you get to send the email. The moment the new lead comes in, you can send an email. So these emails are just a one-time thing. Ever since I started my entrepreneurial journey when I was 14, I've grown to learn something extremely hard. That getting into a new field of marketing is probably one of the most hardest things I have done in my entire life. Because every single social media app is a completely different game. Like, for example, when I was on TikTok when I was 14, because I was trying to do drop shipping, which failed terribly. I spent like hours researching every night on how I can market my products with drop shipping. And then the same thing on LinkedIn, where I actually got to work with professionals on LinkedIn, those agencies who market their stuff on LinkedIn. And that is actually where yours truly learned about the cultivating triangle. That's where I actually started to see the patterns of which I call reputational validation, authenticity, and nurturing reliability. And then when I left on LinkedIn, when that business closed down and I went to YouTube, I saw the same thing over and over again. When I study content from big named content creators that does like selling a service or like selling a system or a course like I'm doing, they all have the same thing. And then also like when I studied like the businesses like Nike, I went through this with my other YouTube video when I said like Nike, they have their for their personal brand, nurturing reliability, their just do it. They make educational content talking about the science behind their gear, and the credibility is their endorsements from their athletes. And there's just like, and then when I go into this new YouTube channel, which I'm starting right now, there's so much more things I have to learn. I have to learn how to edit videos. I have to learn how to format my content. And then as I'm learning new things, like through email marketing, I was trained by professionals in email marketing, and I actually got my certificate of becoming a certified email marketer. The whole point of what I'm trying to say here is that I understand how hard it is to get into a new field of marketing. And that's why I've made a system for you guys where it does all of it for you. Once you set up the system and everything is in place, it can start converting leads automatically. You don't need to learn how to copyright or the sending time dates or anything, because it teaches all you need to know. But right now, unfortunately, I am in a journey where I have to prove that it works. Because I'm not an idiot. No one's gonna buy from me when I have no case studies on my system. I mean, I worked with law firms back on LinkedIn that they all said they loved my emails and how I did things, but this system is newly built, and it took me a long time to set this up. So since I am not an idiot and I understand the risk that you guys are going to be taking with working with me, for the first 3 law firms who decide to work with me, the system is 100% free. If you want more information, just go to my other video. I think it's called Best Ways to Convert Your Leads in 2025. If you want more information, go to this timestamp. But anyways, I'm done pitching you here. Since I have restarted from zero, like to zero, by moving on to YouTube because my LinkedIn business fell. The reason why it failed is because I did too much reaching out and I was too active on the platform where they thought I was using automation, AI, because you can't do that there apparently. Fortunately, I'm in a very hard season of my life where it's like an airplane. You know, I don't know if you guys know this about airplanes, but the moment when the airplane starts to leave, it uses 90% of the fuel to get off the ground. And then once it's off the ground, it stays floating and it floats easily and flies more easier. But unfortunately, I am in that stage where I am using all of the fuel I can to get this business off the ground. But anyways, I hope you guys got the value you wanted, and I really opened your eyes. And with that, keep your mind well, and God bless you all.